Well, ladies and gentlemen, ouch. I just got done watching that Texas Michigan game and pretty crazy blowout, really, from the start. That's with Texas getting like 7 points wiped off the board with kind of a bogus holding call. Quinn Ewers threw a touchdown on like 3rd and 13, and they called it back, and then they missed a field goal. So you could even argue that. But 31-12 with Michigan scoring a garbage time touchdown with 2 minutes left. Texas was 7 point favorites. So it got up to like 7.5. Then it got bet back down. And when it comes to Texas, I mean, Quinn Ewers looks really good. That's a veteran leader. But I think this is more so on Michigan. Michigan just does not look like a good team right now. And I don't know what they did with their quarterback situation. You would think in this day and age, with all the transfer portal QBs, they would go after someone, but alas, they did not. And it was this, everyone thought it was going to be Orgy, and then Davis Warren kind of takes over randomly late in that in that QB battle, and he starts. I mean, you look at the Fresno State game; they could have very easily been in a really close game with Fresno State. Will Johnson got that pick six late, and that made it look like, oh, it was a blowout. It really wasn't. So I think it's a big problem for Michigan. And I think their fan base kind of got overzealous, which is not surprising considering what were they, 41-3 or something the past 3 years. But they kind of thought they could just reload like an Ohio State, a Georgia, an Alabama, but they just don't recruit that well. And they lost Harbaugh, and it seemingly is weighing on them. And they just does not look like they have the talent on the offensive side of the ball to be really any type of threat when it comes to the college football playoff. This does not seem like a scenario where, well, it's early. Like, Oregon last week, they almost lose to Idaho. Everyone's like, oh my God, they barely beat them by 10 points in FCS school, but they have the talent, right? With Michigan, it really doesn't feel like that. It feels like they just kind of are a team that really needed a quarterback via the transfer portal, and they didn't get one. And I had always said during the offseason, they really should have done something there. They just didn't do anything. So, I mean, it's a good win for Texas. Texas, we would think. I mean, we'll see. They face Georgia this year. I'm sure they've got a few other tough SEC games, but I do think it's more about Michigan and just how badly they played. And they do face USC in a few weeks at home. That they might be underdogs in that game, honestly. That's really not an overreaction. I mean, you look at what the FPI is going to be saying about them. It's not positive. I think the FPI is going to have USC favorites over them, depending. They face Arkansas State next week and then USC the next week at home. Michigan does in a 3:30 game. But I mean, Michigan, they still have 0 Big Ten losses, but I just don't know. They really need the quarterback situation to improve. Maybe they will decide to bench Warren and go with someone else and see if that could potentially help things. They still do have Donovan Edwards. They've still got a really talented defense, although their defense was kind of getting gashed there. I mean, I will say, to be fair, Texas did have a lot of long third down completions where it's like, it's not that it's fluky, but in the first half, but honestly, Texas just completely outplayed them. I mean, they outgained them by like 220 yards with them really just sitting on the ball the entire fourth quarter and running it out, because this game was over like mid third quarter. It was like they had about like a 98.9% chance to win. That's basically over in the third quarter with like 7 minutes left. So this is a very rare thing, especially the last 3 or 4 years with Michigan. They, especially at home too, getting blown out like this. So maybe this is good as Ohio State. I think Ohio State's finally going to beat Michigan this year. It's been a while, but this Michigan team does not look good. And certainly there could be I'd say multiple more losses before they even face Ohio State based on how. And look, their QB situation will improve. I did say coming into this game, Texas was catching them at a really good time because of the inexperience at the QB position. Week 2, it's just good rather than getting them at the end of the season. But still, just a horrible performance. Sharon Moore looks completely in over his head. This could be a situation, depending on what happens with Michigan. Maybe they get a 1-year bull ban. This could be like a 2-year lame duck situation with Moore, where they fire him after next year if they get a 1-year bull ban because of the Stallions cheating thing. I don't know if they will get a 1-year bull ban. I'm just saying that's the speculation right now. But Moore seems in over his head. He's not recruiting that. Well, I mean, they did get a few kids. Their recruiting class is not that horrible, I will say that. Although they did just win the national title, you would expect it. Either way, Texas with a very easy win. That's with Michigan scoring that touchdown late. It was 31-6. I do also want to go over some of the other games, but I wonder where Michigan will be ranked because, boy, I wonder if Texas moves up. Honestly, they probably will. They probably will move in front of Ohio State. I don't think they'll move in front of Georgia, though, because Georgia beat Clemson. So that is a big win, and they can justify keeping Georgia at number 1. But I'm guessing people are going to vote Texas number 1 because if you factor in this year, I mean, that's a huge win. Michigan's still going to be ranked. They're not going to fall off, but they'll probably fall down to, like, you would think, like 17 or 18. losing at home, but it was to a top two, top three team in the country. So I guess we'll see. I think Syracuse might be ranked, although Georgia Tech is kind of a paper tiger, man. Everyone overreacted when they beat FSU, and then FSU got crushed by Boston College at home. But I mean, dude, Kyle McCord, it is crazy. Imagine Syracuse Kyle McCord is way better than Ohio State Kyle McCord. Maybe he just needed some confidence, but that he had like 350 yards in the first half, and then they kind of just sat on the ball in the second half and they ran the clock out. Haynes King also had a good game. That's a fun game right there. But Georgia Tech, they kind of had that fake signature win against FSU. FSU is not very good. So Syracuse might be ranked. We'll have to see next week. They have a look at Syracuse's schedule. Oh my God. So at Syracuse, I thought they were going to play next week, but they have a bye next week. And people have to understand a lot of these teams are going to start having byes. Ohio State has a bye next week because everyone gets 2 byes. So a lot of these teams are going to already start having byes like this early in the season. There's legit another week of college football. Instead of there being 13 weeks, there's 14, I believe, this year because they just decided to start earlier, and that's just the way the calendar is. But I think Syracuse could be ranked, and then they face Stanford at home on Friday. They always play Friday games, Syracuse does, especially at home. And then they face Holy Cross. So they're guaranteed to, well, I mean, maybe Stanford's actually not too bad. They might lose to Stanford, but they're at home. So they beat Stanford, they beat Holy Cross. They're going to be 4-0. They'll definitely be ranked at that point. Penn State, I don't know what happened to Penn State. I'll tell you what really pissed me off with Bowling Green? It was 7-7. I really didn't watch this game too much, but I did see it was 7-7. It's 4th and 1. You're on Penn State's 10-yard line. Why are you kicking? Maybe I shouldn't yell at it because, I mean, Bowling Green did play really well. They were, what were they, 34.5-point underdogs? They lose by 7. But, dude, you're 34-point underdogs. You're tied at 7. It's 4th and 1 from the 10-yard line, and you're kicking a 20-yard chip shot field goal. That's just stupid. I'm sorry. So that was kind of weird there. This LSU line seems, I think LSU is going to win by a lot more than that. Tennessee is now -9. Boy, Kansas, that line keeps dropping. Michigan has another game at Illinois. That could be interesting. I want to see what Kansas does against Illinois. I do think South Florida does cover against Bama because it does seem just like a line that's ballooned. Miami -47.5. They finally released a line for that game. Louisville's a team. We'll have to see how well they do. And obviously in this game, they're going to beat Jacksonville State. They were 28-point favorites. But I do think Notre Dame's not going to be able to cover that spread. Well, they just got a completion. But this has kind of surprised me a little bit. Georgia only up 24-0. Kansas State up on Tulane. I think Tulane will cover in that game, though. Tulane will cover. Yeah, you know what happened in this game? There was a scoop and score or something that killed Tulane. Tulane was driving, and then there was some type of defensive touchdown by Kansas State, and that killed them. This is a good game. Oklahoma State versus Arkansas. Looks like Oklahoma State possibly is going to win. 18 points in the fourth quarter. Wow. Arkansas kind of blew this game, it looks like. But, yeah, Michigan, that blowout loss, that's going to be tough. We'll have to see how the rest of the day turns out. But either way, guys, looks like Louisville just scored. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.